Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, if it was a Hollywood film, audiences might find the storyline a bit too far-fetched. An obscure, vegetarian, allotment-owning MP, known mainly for his lifelong opposition to war and nuclear weapons, takes control of the Labour Party and comes within touching distance of becoming Prime Minister. Of course, it's Jeremy Corbyn, and it was 2 years ago today that he was elected leader of the Labour Party, embarrassing commentators and pundits who predicted his demise and, more importantly, changing the political landscape in a way that seemed unthinkable to even his oldest friends and supporters.
Thanks very much. Sorry to keep you waiting at the start. I was struggling with trains and journeys, but we made it in the end, and I think the railway should be publicly owned.
Why is it in Britain today the 100 richest people equal the total wealth of 30% of the population? That is fundamentally wrong.
I've got nothing against Jeremy personally, but what I have got a problem with are his positioning and politics. I don't believe that is a politics that can win.
It's been caused by the financial crisis itself.
The next quote: "It will be my pleasure and honour to host an event in Parliament where our friends from Hezbollah will be speaking, and I've also invited friends from Hamas to come and speak as well."
Yes, I chaired a meeting discussing the future of the Middle East and the Middle East peace process. I have indeed met people with whom I profoundly disagree on many things as in order to try and bring about a peace process.
And I'm therefore delighted to declare Jeremy Corbyn elected as leader of the Labour Party.
Fantastic moment, fantastic mandate for change in Britain, fantastic enthusiasm for real democratic politics.
I believe we have to vote to remain in order to defend investment, defend jobs, defend workers' rights.
I had no longer had confidence in his leadership.
We need a growth rate that would obviously continue to increase government income.
I said explicitly that I would raise £13.5 billion worth of extra taxes.
For businesses, and there will be some tax rises for those on very large incomes. I think that
Whatever your age or situation, people are under pressure, struggling to make ends meet. Our manifesto is for you.
And what we're saying is the Conservatives are the largest party. Note, they don't have an overall majority at this stage.
Politics has changed, and politics isn't going back into the box where it was before.
it is wrong, it is immoral, it is unnecessary that anyone should be sleeping on the streets of Britain.
So what would Jeremy Corbyn have to do to win the next general election? Let's speak to two people who support Mr Corbyn to varying degrees. Maya Goodfellow is a writer and commentator who supported Jeremy Corbyn from the beginning. John McTernan, former advisor to Tony Blair, who once said this of Jeremy Corbyn and his supporters. Have a watch.
The first thing it says is the moronic MPs who nominated Jeremy Corbyn to have a debate.
It includes John Cruddas,
need their heads felt. They need their heads felt. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, hang on. You can say that.
But then what you might see, this is actually...
They're morons, right?
When was that, John McTernan? Remind us.
That was when people lent their votes to nominate Jeremy Corbyn when they had no intention of voting for him. And I do think it's paradoxical, in at the least, to nominate somebody who you will not vote for and who you don't believe should ever be Prime Minister of the country.
But now, do you think, thank goodness they did nominate him?
Now I think we're living in a new reality. I certainly was of the view that Jeremy couldn't change, he changed. I was of the view he didn't want to win, he wants to win control of the Labour Party and purge it of people like me. Actually, with the alliance of Jeremy, his support and momentum, the unions, plus the work of moderate MPs like Peter Kyle or Karen Buck or Alison McGovern, Labour did brilliantly at the last election, just deprived the Tories of majority.
Perhaps
didn't do well enough.
He didn't change. You've changed, he hasn't.
He's got lots better. People like me were critical of his performance at PMQs. He's got better. Critical of his policy positions. He actually has basically adopted Ed Miliband's manifesto from 2010 and from 2015 and delivered it much better.
OK. Maya, what does he have to do if he is going to win the next general election? Let's assume that election is after a 5-year term of Parliament, so let's assume it's 2022. What has to happen?
So I think there are two key things. This isn't just about Jeremy Corbyn the man. As John said, this is about the policy platform that he stood on. I think it's unfair to say that it was very similar to the 2015 platform, given that it was an anti-austerity platform. Ed Miliband didn't adopt that. So what we need to see is continue to see that boldness with policies. They'll have more time, so develop some of those ideas. But really, really importantly in all of this is this wasn't just about Jeremy Corbyn or just about the policies. It was about the way he enthused people and those policies enthused people.
And do you think anti-austerity is still going to be relevant in 2022?
I think that's going to continue to be relevant, yes. But I also think, really importantly, is to make people feel like they have a sense of ownership, to make them feel like they have some power in politics. And I think Jeremy Corbyn did that incredibly well. So what I actually think we need to do is to continue to see a democratisation of the Labour Party.
Which means what in practical terms? Just give me one example
briefly.
So
it means things like the McDonnell Amendment, which...
people don't know what that means.
So it's the reduction of the threshold. So if you want to get on the ballot for the next leadership contest, you have to reach a certain threshold within the Parliamentary Labour Party. This would reduce that ballot. There's even talk about...
do voters really care about stuff like that?
Voters maybe don't, but in terms of the Labour Party being a democratic party, and people feeling
but I mean,
like
to win an election, you have to win over Conservative voters. They wouldn't care about the McDonnell Amendment. What do you think, John McTernan, Jeremy Corbyn and Labour have to do if he is to be in with a chance of winning the next general election?
If you only do more of the same, you'll get the same results. So a Tory minority government and propped up by whoever. You have to do something different. You have to broaden the base. So you have to appeal to the voters who didn't vote. So some in the northeast and the northwest, they've got to be reached with more traditional Labour policies around council housing. But in the south and the southeast, you can win Worthing, you can win seats in London with a housing policy too. I think practical, popular policies which are explained in a popular way about a house for today's young people, a pension for today's workers, decent social care for today's elderly. Those kind of connection policies, people will do that. And then also just defending jobs and living standards in the face of Brexit, which is the biggest challenge facing us. But it can't obsess a Labour government. It's got to have a vision of the country beyond that.
Are you clear where he stands on Brexit?
Yes.
What do you think his position is?
I think Jeremy's position on Brexit is very similar to his position on Trident, which is he personally has doubts about Trident, doubts about the European Union. The party is in favour of the European Union, and the party is definitely in favour of decent jobs, decent working conditions for whoever works in Britain, and a growing economy. So I think the big thing about Jeremy, which came out in the general election, is he wants to be on Brexit where he can cause the government the most pain and the most damage. This is a debate at the moment about the current government and the way they're handling it, and he's not falling into the trap of talking about what Labour would do. You want to find out what a Labour government will do when Prime Minister Jeremy Corbyn is in Downing Street? Have an election and we'll find out, because Jeremy's going to win the next election.
That's what you believe right now?
Yep.
Maya?
Yeah, that he will win the next election. I think there's every possibility of that happening. But what is key is making sure those people who joined the Labour Party, who were part of that grassroots army, do continue to be engaged. And the reason why I'm talking about that internal democracy is because what does matter is the grassroots action. Bottom-up politics makes people feel like they're connected. It makes them feel like they have a chance to change what the country is. And I think that's going to matter with Brexit. But as John says, beyond that, what's going to happen to the country after Brexit is really important.
Thank you both. Thank you very much, John McTernan. And Maya, I'm so sorry, I haven't written your surname down here.
Goodfellow.
Goodfellow. How could I forget that? Thank you very much. Thank you.
I've been getting